So good morning. I appreciate the invitation. So WITI, thank you. I remember doing this many more years ago than I'm willing to admit, and it was a much more intimate but passionate crowd in a small place in Palo Alto. My, have we grown. We're live feeding somewhere besides this room. So thank you. So this morning, my quick 10-minute power talk, and then happy to talk to you ladies and gentlemen later in our roundtable event, is around, the topic was digital transformation tips for tech leaders. And I'm going to drop the tech part because you're going to hear from me very little tech speak in talking about digital transformation, what it means, how can we become successful both as people leaders, as mentors, as employees, as the generations change in the workforce. And I want to start with setting context. I think context is always very important to a presentation. Who are you? Can you relate to me? Because that helps you understand really my tips. So I recently had an opportunity in 2 minutes or less. What inspires you? Renee, quick. You got to memorize it. You got to be succinct with it. Go. So let me start with that because I think it's a good grounding for what we're going to talk about here in the next 10 minutes. So what inspires me? Very straightforward. Diversity of thought, insatiable curiosity, willing to publicly raise your hand and ask really tough questions, and then be constructively impatient, seeking the answers. And those answers aren't just for one, but it's for many. Now, what I just described in that, what inspires me, is really what's the secret of success for transformation. And it's digital transformation. Yes, there's AI, and there's machine learning, and there's robots and chatbots, and lots of data, but the number one thing it comes down to is here, in your heart and your mindset, and all the employees, partners, customers we have to inspire. So if I talk about it in terms of just a couple checklists of things for you to start to work through, and how can you be successful in digital transformation, whether you're tech or non-tech. Well, the first thing you got to talk about is enrollment. And it's enrollment of the talent. And talent is generic to your employees, your partners, your customers. There needs to be a talent adoption that's a hockey stick because the pace and rate of change is immediate. We all have access to data. We're all on our phones. Matter of fact, this thing is live streaming. So if I screw up, I publicly am screwing up on real live TV somewhere, and that's just the way it goes. So that's one, and that's a hard shift. We also want to talk about that tech. I'm a CIO. I've been in transformation work for almost 20 years, either doing it or leading it. Technology is ubiquitous. It is everywhere. There's no secret special sauce in my back pocket that I know that someone else doesn't probably know or figure out, but it's how you use it. Now, that's not to say digital transformation doesn't have a lot of technology involved. It does. Technology is an enabler, just like air is an enabler for us to live and breathe. No doubt about it, but it's how do you apply that with business value, society value. My company, Hitachi Vantara, is part of a subsidiary of 800 sister companies that is headquarters in corporate Japan. And they talk about a double bottom line. It's not just solving problems with data and technology and analytics for yourself or being a profitable company, but you do it for society benefit as well. And if you aren't doing both of those, then that digital transformation or that transformation initiative doesn't have the right strategy. So let's talk a little bit about, again, a few of the little checklist items to what else? What else can we do to be more successful in this age of digital transformation? Well, one, let's all recognize that it's all about the data, yes. There may be technologies, yes, but it's about what we do with that. Now, there's a research study that says all companies, and if you're tech in the room, you can nod your head and acknowledge this. If you're not, ask your tech folks. Every company hoards data. They love data. They store data. Your CIOs and your tech executives have it in their data centers growing leaps and bounds. And they're now storing it at a more rapid pace than ever before. But also research tells you that only 5% of that data is even looked at. We store a lot of it, but we only look at a little bit of it. Well, all of a sudden, digital transformation shows up, allows us to look at it real time, quickly, analytics, predictive, feeding it to robots, you name it, yes, that is part of it. But it still comes back to the human element of that, because that data has to be interpreted by somebody to feed it to something, to then do something digital with it, or create that artificial intelligence or augmented intelligence, which I much prefer to artificial. It means that there's human capital in that intelligence as well. It's not just about giving the data to something and automatically this bot is going to do something great with it. The bot will do what it has to do or wants to do or needs to do based on what we've given it to and how the data is interpreted. And the interpretation still comes back to heart and mind of a human. So it comes back to talent. Now, the successes that I want to just kind of maybe share with you from my experience kind of comes back to outcomes-based. I talk about not tech, and you're not going to hear me talk much geeky speak, but there's a term you will have heard or have heard. It's as a service. So we talk about digital transformation, and I'm saying it's not about technology. No, it's outcomes-based. Technology is masked behind. If anything, us as technologists need to take this giant step across the chasm of being a technologist to our business partners at all levels. And either you're stepping across that imaginary line, you're busting down the silo, you're building a bridge to that silo, because as technologists, if we're not speaking the business language, having business acumen to understand why are we digitally transforming, sound business logic, then we're not going to get it, and we're not going to be successful. So now let's talk about stepping over that chasm. You step over that, and what you're hearing in the marketplace is as a service, outcomes-based. So a couple examples. Imagine, if you will, instead of ordering that washer and dryer from the big box store, and they deliver it and they drop it in your laundry room and say, okay, ma'am, sir, it's all hooked up, have at it, and there's all these buttons, and you got to figure out how to make it work, and it's pretty much a digital asset, so it's collecting data on you, and if something doesn't break, there's an error code, and you got to look it up in a user manual about that thick to figure out what the error code means, and it tells you when you're not washing it correctly, and all this great stuff. Well, now imagine it's called laundry as a service. And instead of that dude or dudette who drops the washer and dryer off at your house, they drop it off and you're paying a service fee. And what happens is that service fee says, not only am I giving you this washer and dryer, but this person comes in and the outcomes that you're getting is one nicely folded, clean basket of dark clothes every week, light clothes every week, and delicates. And you'll come home on Friday afternoons, knowing normally you have a pile of laundry to look at. They're all done. And you're paying for the devices. You're paying for anything that breaks. You're paying for some dude or dudette to show up and service it when it needs to be serviced, because they have all these analytics gadgets connected to that device. And I don't have to think about it, other than put my clothes in a sorted hamper of dark, light, delicate as a service. That's one example. All done by data, all done by digital transformation. Let's talk about another one. Michelin Man. Everyone knows the Michelin Man Tires. They started over 10 years ago with tires as a service. And it's a great Harvard Business Review article if you want to go Google for it. But it talks about their idea. They took a risk really early on, didn't go as well as planned, and so they had to re-engineer it a little bit. But they are now doing this as a service. So it's not about just going in and getting those rubber things put on your car every so often, but they're managing it proactively. And as a person who doesn't have a whole lot of time on the weekends to go sit at Costco or wherever to get my tires fixed, or know when to fix them, or even worse, I don't fix them until there's a flat tire at the worst, most inappropriate time. So again, Michelin Man is now tires as a service. Yes, lots of technology behind that, but we can all relate to that. Laundry as a service, tires as a service, et cetera. So that's one of the things that, again, I want to just leave everyone in this room with. But lastly, and most importantly, I want to come back to what I started with, which is there's a few things that I just told, in those really telling you a story, that you want to take away. So what you heard, there was a solid strategy, whether it be the Michelin Man or my laundry as a service. There's some huge investment in talent that had to happen. Can you imagine what you now have to do, whether it's laundry as a service or Michelin as tires as a service? There's 5 generations in my company. I have to help them think differently in a way that they can consume that as a service and no longer in a cube just coding an app for some specific widget purpose. It is a business outcome-driven solution. That means I got to tell that story, and my managers have to tell that story. The executives of every company have to tell that story to enroll and get high adoption as fast as possible to this new mindset. It's the human capital, the talent that's critical. And I know I'm out of time, but I got two more on my checklist. So give me a couple seconds to get through the rest of them. So risk-taking is the other one, and I'm going to tell you to go look at that Michelin story because that tells about the risk-taking they did early. They failed fast and then re-looked at it. That's the new norm. Now you have to be mindful risk-takers. You've got data. In fact, you have 95% of the data you've never even looked at your company. So I'm pretty sure you got some found sound with data scientists or analytical people do risk-taking with some purpose, not just close your eyes and cross the street and hope you don't get hit by a car kind of risk-taking. And then lastly, and probably the most important one, and I'm speaking as much probably from the heart to the people managers or the mentors that are informal or formal mentors of leaders, future leaders. We all have a responsibility to do what I just did, which was tell a story empathetically from the person you're telling the story to get them inspired and enrolled in what it is we're doing in this digital transformation era. The pace and rate of change will continue. And the number one thing I spend most of my time at is trying to tell my staff in IT that no, your job isn't going to go away. R2-D2 is not going to come do your server work for you. You are going to be a handler. You're going to be a handler of this new innovation. You're going to be a governor. You're going to be moved up. We're going to invest in you with new talent and new skills because of this automation, because of this digital transformation. But that takes probably as much skill as learning a new technical language, and sometimes it's harder because it's the soft stuff. So again, being an outrageous storyteller, infectious, and be empathetic to who you're telling the story to. As I said, there's 5 generations in my organization at my company, and those stories are very different. And I need to know how to do that to make sure that we are successful as a company. The technology will come. And so in closing, what I would say is what I said at the beginning. What am I inspired by? Diversity of thought, creativity, insatiable curiosity. Raise your hand and ask those tough questions publicly. Be constructively impatient and ruthless for the answers, both for, not just for one, but for many, for society. If you get that all right, then you're going to be digitally transforming, and then the next generation of transformation will occur, and you will get that right as well. So with that, I thank you.